60 Minutes is under fire for deceptively editing its prized interview with Kamala Harris in the middle of the election campaign. The New York Post has reported that Harris's answers on Israel were heavily edited to get rid of her garbled response. But don't take my word for it. Watch what went to air and then what was really said.
The work that we do diplomatically with the leadership of Israel is an ongoing pursuit around making clear our principles. Well, let's start with this. On this subject, the aid that we have given Israel allowed Israel to defend itself against 200 ballistic missiles that were just meant to attack the Israelis and the people of Israel. And I think that is the most recent example of why what we do to assist in their defense around military aid is important. And when we think about the threat that Hamas, Hezbollah presents, Iran, I think that it is without any question our imperative to do what we can to allow Israel to defend itself against those kinds of attacks. Now, the work that we do diplomatically with the leadership of Israel is an ongoing pursuit around making clear our principles, which include the need for humanitarian aid, the need for this war to end, the need for a deal to be done which would release the hostages and create a ceasefire. We're not going to stop pursuing what is necessary for the United States to be clear about where we stand on the need for this war to end. The work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements in that region by Israel that were very much prompted by or a result of many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen in the region. And we're not going to stop doing that. We are not going to stop pursuing what is necessary for the United States to be clear about where we stand on the need for this war to end.
Well, joining me now to discuss is Sky News contributor Kosha Garda. And Kosha, that very lengthy side-by-side we played, it was long, but very important, because what 60 Minutes has done is when Kamala Harris was asked a question, one of the biggest complaints against her during the election campaign was that she rambled, she was slow to get to her point, she wasn't succinct. They have cut the best, the sharpest bites for her to go to air and made it seem like she's quick, like she's responsive, like she's competent, when in reality, she was just a rambling mess.
Yes, and from CBS's perspective, Jack, they clearly made a calculus over here, and I'm not sure it was fully thought through or it's coming to fruition the way they thought, because I don't think they actually changed anybody's minds in terms of the coherence or succinctness of Kamala Harris as a communicator. She had been well established as somebody who was prone to rambling. This term word salad has become a phrase that everybody's familiar with her. And I don't think them swooping in to save her in this case changed anybody's minds about her effectiveness or lack thereof as a communicator. What it did do, though, is it set them up to be embarrassed, because then Trump went on to win. Now, his FCC chair forced them to release a transcript because they fall under the purview of the FCC, since they're a free-to-air network over there. They've had to do this, and everybody can see it. So I think, Kamala Harris's image is what it is, but it's CBS's image that gets tarnished in this.
Oh, definitely. They've suffered a lot of damage for this, and quite rightfully, and that's why people get a little bit angry at the mainstream media over there. But let's move on, because this week Trump signed an executive order which prevents biological blokes from competing against women in sport. Now, I don't think I've ever come across someone real outside of media bubbles who thinks that it is okay, but somehow the media, they publish the most niche, radical voices on the issue, and they always give them the spotlight. But it was interesting to see CNN's polling on this, because the journalists seem flabbergasted that mainstream people absolutely detest the reality-denying nonsense.
Transgender female athletes in women's sports, only 18% of the country says that they should be, in fact, allowed to participate in women's sports. Compare this to the opposition. I mean, my goodness gracious, 79%. You rarely get 79% of the country to agree on anything.
Kosha, it's one of those things that these leftist journalists, it's such a big own goal. They should be championing women. They should be supporting all of these women who are raising concerns after concerns. The people like Leah Thomas were stealing positions in swim teams and in the medals and everything, and winning races when they just utterly should not have been. Most people, the polls, CNN, now realising that most people just utterly reject this kind of nonsense.
Yes, it is such an own goal for the media and the political leadership on the left. I think Martina Navratilova came out on X yesterday and said she's so sad that no Democrats were able to do this after Trump signed that executive order banning this practice in female sports. And it was a wide open opportunity for them just based on those numbers. And as Harry Enton said, there are few, if any, issues where 79% of the American public these days agree. This was one. They were set up to take advantage of it, and they did it, and then they just handed a massive win to the other side, and here we are.
Yeah, well said. Moving on, because MSNBC host Joy Reid, she's supposed to be a serious journalist, but she's been captured on camera claiming that the 2024 election was stolen.
I mean, there are all these conspiracy theories out there about Trump and whether or not they cheated. I know you say that they didn't, but I know you kind of have
Wait
to
a minute.
say that.
I didn't say they didn't. What I said is there is a rational explanation for why Kamala Harris could have lost those swing states and Trump won them. There's a way you can get to those numbers. There was absolute voter suppression that took place, and I consider that cheating. I don't ever put it past Republicans to cheat an election.
Now, Kosha, this whole topic is something that irritates me, because I remember that Hillary Clinton, after the 2016 election, repeatedly said that she thought that he was an illegitimate president and the election was, paraphrasing, but stolen by Donald Trump. Then when Donald Trump ventured into the same area, there was outrage. And now these same journalists, again, are pushing this narrative that, well, maybe this one was actually stolen and he is a legitimate president. We're back here again.
The irony is so thick you can cut it with a knife. And you're absolutely right. Hillary Clinton is the OG election denier. Others have called her that after 2016. And she kept calling President Trump in his first term an illegitimate president. Stacey Abrams in the gubernatorial race in Georgia, till this day, has famously never conceded her election to Brian Kemp over there, the Republican who won. And there are many others. But it's really interesting. There's clips in there where Joy Reid specifically said that elections can be stolen and are stolen. All the other side has to do is just cut that and play it on loop in the next presidential election cycle or senatorial election cycle coming up in 2 years, and it will do the work for them.
Extraordinary. Kosha Gata, thank you so much for your insight.